Hi everyone, Kay Bergner here today with Dr. Tom Phelan, author and creator of 123 Magic and the author of The Manager Mom Epidemic. Dr. Phelan, welcome.
Good morning, Kay. How are you doing this morning?
Oh, well, in the time-honored parenting tradition, my child has given me a cold and it is far, far worse for me than it's been for her. So if I sound a little congested and silly today, that's why.
I can still understand what you're saying.
Well, that's a good thing. So today, what we're going to talk about is we are going to talk about how to encourage good behavior, how to get kids to do the good things that we want them to do. I think the thing that people tend to immediately recognize 123 Magic for is the counting, right? It's in the name of the program, and it also really solves the immediate pain point of getting kids to stop doing things that they shouldn't be doing. But there's a lot more to the program beyond that, obviously. And one of the other really important pieces is what you refer to in the book as encouraging good behavior or start behaviors. Can you quickly explain for us, like, what is a start behavior?
Yeah, start behavior is our word in 123 Magic for positive behavior, whereas stop behavior means obnoxious behavior. So obnoxious behavior is arguing, yelling, whining, fighting, screaming. Start or positive behavior is getting up and out in the morning, doing your homework, eating, going to bed, and so on. They're basically in 123 Magic, as you were saying, there are three parenting jobs: obnoxious behavior, positive behavior, and bonding. And so today we're talking about parenting job number 2, which is the positive behavior.
Okay, terrific. So I know every time that we talk about this, one question that frequently comes up from parents is, if my child isn't listening to me, is that a start behavior because I want them to start listening, or is it a stop behavior because I want them to stop ignoring me or stop playing around and do the thing that they're supposed to be doing?
Yeah. What you want to do in answering this question is look at what behavior do you want them to do? So you're trying to prompt them to do something. If you're trying to prompt them to stop whining, then it's a stop behavior, obnoxious behavior problem, and you should use counting. If you're trying to prompt them to eat their dinner, that's a positive behavior or a start behavior. So the listening, what I'm saying is the listening can cover both start and stop behavior. It depends on what you want them to do, not just the listening.
Got it. So we're really the sort of whether they're listening to you or not is maybe kind of a vehicle. We want to think about what end result are we trying to achieve.
That's right. That's a good way of looking at it.
Okay, great. So why is it that counting doesn't work very well for start behaviors?
Well, if you look at start and stop behaviors, the amount of motivation needed in a child is vastly different. If I want you to stop whining and I can get you to cooperate, how long does it take you to stop whining? About a half a second. If I want you to clean your room and you're going to cooperate, how long does it take? It takes maybe 35, 40 minutes, who knows, but it's a lot bigger project. So we need different tactics. Counting is designed to produce short motivation of a few seconds. So if you want to use counting to clean the room, a few seconds isn't going to clean the room or eat your dinner or do your homework and so on. So it's a motivational difference. It's very big between positive and negative behavior.
Okay, great. So if we can't use counting for start behaviors, what should we as parents be looking to do instead?
The overarching concept is routines. So you want to establish routines for your positive behavior. And we have about half a dozen different tactics we use to establish those routines. But the most famous probably is you want a bedtime routine, that you do the same every day and so on. The same thing for homework, for eating, and all that. But the main thing, so think obnoxious behavior, counting, positive behavior, routines for every behavior that you want them to do.
Got it. Terrific. Yes, bedtime is a very popular one. So next week, I know you're doing a free seminar where you're going to cover a lot of differences between start and stop behaviors, as well as 7 different methods to help parents establish really solid positive routines. Can you share just one of those methods with us right now?
Yeah, I'll tell you, one of my favorites is the kitchen timer. So imagine when my kids were at home, we're having people over for dinner, family room's a mess. I say, guys, I want you to get your stuff out of the family room. I'm setting the timer for 45 minutes. And so it's a beat the timer. It's not a child versus parent thing. It's a man versus machine thing, kind of. And you can play all kind of games with the timer. It's really fun, and the kids enjoy it. You can use it even for homework and so on. So that's one of my favorite tactics.
Terrific. Well, that's wonderful. So, like I said, Dr. Phelan's going to be doing a free seminar on that next week. That'll be the full hour-long conversation, and he'll be talking about those 7 methods for establishing routines, as well as sort of taking start behavior to the next level and teaching your kids how to take initiative for things, so to do things without being asked. So now, before we sign off, let's talk about timeouts for a minute. In 1, 2, 3 Magic, one of the key tools that is used to kind of handle stop behaviors is a rest period or a timeout. But in recent years, there have been a number of parenting experts who claim that timeouts are harmful. They're a punishment and they're bad for kids. Can you speak a little bit to what your philosophy is around timeout or rest period, and sort of what the prevailing recommendation from pediatricians is?
Yeah, this has been a thing in the last 20 years or so. It's been very disturbing in a lot of ways because it affects not only homes, but also daycare centers. I was at a daycare center in Elmendorf Air Force Base in Alaska, and the 2 of the teachers there, they said, Dr. Phelan, it's driving us crazy because they just made a policy change where you can't use timeout anymore. You have to use distraction or redirection. And they said, we're going nuts. It doesn't work for everything. But somebody came along, I'm not sure who started the fuss, but somebody came along maybe 20 years ago or so and said, this is a punishment. Now, there's been an punishment in child discipline movement for a long period of time, and so on. And so those people are there, but now they jumped on the timeout bandwagon. And what they keyed on, they said, here you're taking this poor little child and putting them off by themselves and isolating them and almost marking them as a bad kid or something like that. And that's a bad thing to do. And, isolating people from their group is a bad thing to do. And so on. And so a lot of people started thinking, well, yeah, that's not good. Nobody likes being excluded, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And so that's the negative part of it. On the positive side, the American Academy of Pediatrics has always recommended timeouts. The research is supportive of timeouts. And so I think the bottom line to me is not the concept of timeout by itself, it's the way it's done. You can do a timeout well, and you can do it abusively. And that's the key, not the concept.
And can you just give us kind of a couple of brief examples of what is a good timeout, right? One that is healthy and useful, and what is a bad timeout? Like, how would you know the difference?
Yeah, a good timeout would be done calmly and decisively by a parent. Okay, so they're not verbally screaming or abusing the child when they're doing that. It would be brief. We don't put them in for 5 hours into the room and shut the door. A good timeout can be done with the door open. If you have a child with separation anxiety, you don't close the door. But a good timeout is definitive, but it's gentle. A bad timeout, and you find it's interesting, okay, when you listen to some of the examples people give about timeout being bad, they give examples of parents screaming at their kids or even spanking their kids. Well, that's not timeout, that's child abuse, and so on. So a bad timeout is an excited parent who is very upset about the child's behavior, who's throwing them into a rest period or something like that, extending the time, maybe verbally abusing them again when they come out and so on. That's not timeout. That's just a bad procedure all the way around.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think it really speaks to what we've talked about around 1, 2, 3 Magic as a whole, that it's really as much about teaching the parents as it is about helping the kids learn a new behavior. So if parents learn how to use a timeout in a calm way that really just sort of provides space for a child to sort of feel their feelings and process those emotions, or maybe be removed from a situation where they were really spun up and they weren't able to self-regulate, providing them with a little bit of quiet space for that is a good thing. And as a parent, like, even if you remain outwardly calm, we know that sometimes we are frustrated inside. So that brief break is good for parents as well.
You're absolutely right. The timeout really and the rest period have 2 meanings, and you are correct. It's a break for the parents and it's a break for the child.
Terrific. Well, obviously, the timeout topic affects not only parents at home, but as you mentioned, teachers in preschools and daycare. So next week, Dr. Phelan is going to do a very brief, quick 8-minute seminar talking about the timeout controversy, how to do it well, and speaking a little bit more to what the research says about these methods so that you could do it in a way that is really helpful and gentle for yourself and your child. So you could sign up for those seminars. We'll post the links here on our social media, but you can also sign up for our newsletter at onetoyourmagic.com. Thank you so much for joining us, and we'll talk to you soon.